Okay, feature feedback. Here goes nothing. I liked the anecdote at the beginning of your speech about your dream job of being a journalist, where you kind of started us off with its beginnings. You being a kid, reading the paper, it was sweet. And then I liked how you transitioned that, unintentional or not, it worked, progressing from childhood to adolescence. You said you wrote the sports section and you eventually became editor in chief, which shows a lot of responsibility. Like, especially being an adolescent, like it's a big job to take on, and it does show initiative. It does show responsibility. It does show that you're committed to this. And then the final transition to where we are now in your little anecdotes trail was that you ultimately are enrolled in college, you're enrolled in a journalism program, you've been involved in your school's paper, still showing that you've been committed and you've been on this track from an early age. That is one way that you demonstrated passion. You mentioned passion quite a bit throughout that speech, but I think that that initial anecdote and that transition really was set the stage for passion. That it was a lifelong thing. You're what 20, you're in your 20s, teens, and the fact that you've stuck with it as your dream since then. Like most people wake up in the morning and they like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but you seem to have a pretty solid path. There were a few bits in there that contradicted itself. You mentioned, I do like how you did critique yourself. I think that, you know, metacognition and internal processing of everything is really important, not only as a journalist, but as a human being. It's good to think about thinking and have a good sense of self awareness, so kudos to that. I think that you might have contradicted yourself a bit with your cons and your later statement about how you work with a team and when you were editor in chief to get stuff done. You mentioned how procrastinating was one of your biggest weaknesses. That's human nature. But your awareness of it was good because that means that you can improve upon it, that you're not just blindly walking through life procrastinating. And especially in journalism, to my vague knowledge of it, that you need to meet deadlines. You can't just say, "Oh, I'll sleep on it." Like you might miss it. That's your career, is being up to date, reporting it, sharing news with your peers, community members, the world, or whatnot. So you can't slack off there, especially if this is a job. You mentioned though how you can get people to stick to their own deadlines. Well, apply that. I think that as the mentor here, I would advise you to turn that around, and if you can see where other people are slacking and procrastinating, internalize it, and you're solid then. I know that I'm failing now with ums and ahs. That was another thing. Good verbal communication skills are important in the world of communication. Like if you're writing a story, I can't tell if you're umming and ahhing, but in the professional world, if you are interviewing or anything else, providing feedback like I'm doing now, have a clear path of what you're going to say, attack the questions, don't use filler words like and and like. They just roll off the tongue. They're easy to use in conversation, but they're unprofessional, and try to stray away from that. That's just my 2 cents. I think that all in all, you have a clear path. You know what you want to do, so do it. What else did you do? You did mention your writing skills and how you really found that college was a way to hone in on them, which is good, showing your progression as a student. And you said you wanted to be a lifelong learner. That is the best approach to have, and especially if you are involved with current events, you're constantly going to be learning. The world changes every day. You're constantly going to be learning new things, new faces, new things to see, new person of the day, new sports team. Like things change, and especially in a fast-paced world like journalism, you're going to be you're on the ball every day. So I really thought that that was admirable, that you were able to write better and that you'll be able to communicate with your writing with others what you've learned, what you've seen, what's going on, you know. But definitely, I did like that you that you acknowledge that you weren't perfect going into college, that you weren't set from your high school experience, that you've taken the chance to grow and expand upon things. So it shows that you took the initiative and that you didn't just say, oh, I want to be a journalism major, I want to be a journalist, and then just not been involved. Your involvement, it's good that you were involved and that you did mention that you were able to balance a healthy work, school, social life, and that is important, that you don't, I think you said snap or crack or lose it. One of those things all mean the same. But all in all, good job. I hope you do well in life.